The concept for Lark Bower was born during the first lockdown of 2020, when I suddenly had no access to my loom or my studio. Most of my weaving career has been spent as a weave design studio, creating fabric ideas, concepts, and colour stories. Normally, I'd be busy weaving at the studio every day, but when the pandemic hit, everything ground to a strange and very uncertain halt. After a while, I found that I just needed to weave something. Weaving is my job, but it's also my life. I don't quite know who I am without it. I started weaving off loom, using leftover yarn, a wooden base, and a needle and thread to make small studies of my favourite woven structures: twills, herringbones, hopsacks, and houndstooths. These little studies are magical to do, and if you want to understand the basics of weaving without the complexity of the loom, weaving with a needle and thread really gets you to grips with how the structures work. While I was making these, I started to wonder, why isn't weaving more celebrated? Why is woven cloth predominantly associated with industry, fashion, and trends rather than craftsmanship, culture, and history? I think we've started to think of textiles as disposable. In the fashion industry and in our culture, there's a constant cycle of buying and discarding, chasing trends, and as a result, the craft of weaving is perceived as devalued. I wanted to shine a spotlight on craftsmanship and woven structure as an art form in its own right, but also to raise awareness about waste, to highlight the often short lifespan of the garments we associate with these fabrics, and to suggest that instead of seeing fashion as disposable, we start to place more value on it. Tons of perfectly good kinds of yarn end up in landfill every year, sometimes because a particular quality has been discontinued or a factory has shut down or are getting rid of some old stock, and sometimes simply because it's last season's colour. To avoid contributing to that, I'm using only industry waste yarn, dead stock, leftovers, and sustainably produced fibres in my work. Hand weaving is an often forgotten art, and one which deserves to be appreciated without necessarily being part of a functional or throwaway item. Hopefully, through these pieces, we can help to reinforce the idea that cloth should be cherished and looked after and preserved just like a painting or a sculpture would be. The best that we can do is to raise awareness and educate ourselves on where our fabric comes from, to value craftsmanship, and to keep the art of weaving alive.